This should be a short and sweet video. By the way, I was totally wrong on my answer to that last riddle from the last video. I said, I am sitting at a table, 10 flies are on the table. With one swat, I kill 3 flies. How many flies are left on the table? I said 10, not even thinking that the other 7 flies would fly away. So the answer in the back of my book here said there's 3. The other 7 would fly away. Now, I suppose you could debate that and say, well, the other 7 wouldn't necessarily fly away, but I guess the logical reasoning would be yes, they would fly away, so you only have 3 left on the table. So maybe some of you got that and you were like, oh, Mr. Hawks, you're an idiot. So anyway, here's another one. How can you drop an egg a distance of 3 feet without breaking it? Okay, so maybe pause it if you don't want to hear it. So the answer is either you drop it from a distance of 4 feet and it goes 3 feet without breaking, or you catch it before it hits the ground. Either way, you don't break it if as long as you don't drop it, as long as I guess you drop it more than 3 feet away from the ground. That's kind of a lame one. Alright, anyway, sitting here talking to myself. So we're going to crank it up a bit. This should be a pretty quick video. I've got 4 pairs of coordinates, and I would like you guys, you need to be able to, I should say, graph or plot a point in the polar coordinate plane with any one of these 4 combinations. And when you play the game of Battleship probably tomorrow, when you play that, you're going to have to know how to plot these points regardless of whether or not both the r and the theta are positive. The r is positive, theta is negative. We already did those 2 in the last video, so see the last video if you want to see those. And then you also have to be able to plot the points in the polar plane when the r is negative and the theta is positive, or when the r is negative and the theta is negative as well. So I have examples of those here, and so I'll show you how to do a couple of these, and I want you to do a couple of them on your own. So let's start with the negative positive. Negative 3 comma pi over 6. Remember from the last video, and it's right over here, the first thing we do is find the angle, and then the second thing we do is we find the r and then plot the point. So if we're going to find the angle, if we continue with that, find the angle first, that's pi over 6. So here's the pole, there's the pi over 6 right there. Okay, so here's the pi over 6. And it says then, and we said find the r. Well, the r is negative 3. And so if we think about this, 3 comma pi over 6 was the first one that we graphed. And we found the angle, and then we went towards the angle 1, 2, 3 units. Well, the negative just means that you go away from the angle, that number of units. And so instead of going towards pi over 6, we go away from pi over 6. So you have to find that. So you got to be careful here because it looks it's 2 lines away from the horizontal. So 1, 2. So that'd be right there. So that right there is the negative pi, or it's the opposite of pi over 6. And so we have, instead of going towards pi over 6, we go away 1, 2, 3, and that point right there corresponds to the coordinates negative 3 comma pi over 6. Okay, so that's what happens when r is negative. Okay, and then, so I'm going to do this one as well. Negative 4 comma negative pi over 2. So what happens if it's negative negative? Well, again, find the angle. Negative pi over 2. So we have 0 here, and pi over 2 is 90 degrees up to the left if we go counterclockwise. But if it's a negative angle, we go clockwise. And so down here, straight down, is our negative pi over 2. Okay, so again, first find the angle. Alright, we found the angle. And then if the r is positive, we go towards the angle. If the r is negative, we go away from the angle. So we're going to go away from this angle. 1, 2, 3, 4 units away from the negative pi over 2. And so this point right here corresponds to the coordinates negative 4 comma negative pi over 2. You'll get into trouble if you try to think about this too much. Again, find the angle. We found it. If the r is positive, you go towards the angle. If the r is negative, you go away from the angle. That's it. Okay, don't try to make too much of this. So the next two I want you to do on your own, and I will do those in orange. Pause the video, and then when you're done, come back. All right. So hopefully you've paused it, you've plotted these points, and you're good to go. I'm going to do this just as if if you were doing it from the very beginning. 4 pi over 3, we find that angle. 1, 2, 3, 4 pi over 3 is this angle right here. There's our 4 pi over 3. And it says -5. So we're going to go away from this angle 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that point right there corresponds to coordinates -5, 4 pi over 3. So it would be in the first quadrant if you were in the xy plane. Next one, -6, -3 pi over 4. Find the angle, -3 pi over 4, which is right here. This is the angle, -3 pi over 4. 1, 2, 3 pi over 4. 4 pi over 4 would be all the way over here to pi. Okay, so instead of going towards -3 pi over 4, we're going to go away from it. So -6. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in the negative direction, and that brings us to right there. Okay, so -6, -3 pi over 4 is right there in the first quadrant. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.